All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Danny, and this is Fist in the Frame. All right. So today, you're going to talk about Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, the Battle of Unato. Now, I am going to be honest with you here in a second. It's on Netflix. Originally, I was watching it on Netflix, and I thought when I first turned it on, I seriously thought it was just the same thing that was on Amazon. I was going to sit here and talk shit about Netflix, like what makes an original Netflix anime series, why are they taking over the Kabaneri franchise, what the hell's going on, and I was just gonna sit here and talk shit about, fucking Netflix has got some kind of balls to put its name on something that's already been made and that's already been on Amazon Prime. I bet like a lot of you, I saw the original on Amazon. I binge watched like the first few episodes in the beginning, and then you had to wait every week. So every week I was waiting for the next episode. And the thing is, I believe I saw it in its original Japanese language. So a lot of the characters, obviously I didn't know what they sounded like in English. When I was getting ready to talk shit about Netflix and the new one, I'm like, well, is it because they added new languages? They think it's theirs or something? And I just had it on the background and I was setting up this podcast. But then I started to realize, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember any of these scenes. What's going on? And that guy is still with the arm already in the beginning. I don't remember him being a Kabaneri already so early in the beginning, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So I stopped what I was doing, and I was already I seen that. Well, I didn't see it. I basically heard episode 1, and I was watching episode 2, and I just started looking it up, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm fucking an idiot. This is a sequel, and I'm like, god damn it. So I went back because I wasn't really paying attention to the story. I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. So I went back and I started watching it. Now, the cool thing about Netflix is that you can watch it in a bunch of different languages. And one of the languages is Spanish. And I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and watch it dubbed in Spanish. So I did. And it is, in Spanish, it is very well made. I don't know who the actors are in Spanish, but they're pretty good. The actors in the dubbed, the English ones, they're pretty okay too. I like them. It's always better to really watch it in the original Japanese language and read the subtitles. But because I'm usually at work when I'm watching this, or I'm usually doing something else, I hear it more often, and then I look up every once in a while and look at the animation, and especially if the animation is, I wouldn't say lame, but if it's just like normal animation and not really worth paying too much attention to, I just have it in the background and watch it. Let's just say like the 3-star anime out of 5, that sort of thing. But with this one, I just decided, I've actually watched it, I'm not even joking, I watched the whole thing through 4 times already. Watched it, well, a couple of times half-assed in English, and then I watched it in Spanish all the way through from beginning to end, and then again I watched it again in English all the way through. And at first, one of the reasons that I kept watching it over and over again is because, well, let me look this up here real quick while I'm talking. But what I was thinking was like, why would Netflix only have 3 parts to this thing? It's got a really good movie feel to it. Why didn't they just? And I watched it and I decided, you know what? I'm okay with it being 3 parts. If they wanted to make a sequel to this, I'm very happy that they made the sequel to the original. I'm cool with it being 3 parts. And hold on, let me see here. Oh, right off the bat, never mind. It's supposed to be a movie. All right, well now that makes more sense. I was saying it looks like a movie that was chopped up, and I'm like, they could have made it a movie, but I don't know. I don't mind it being chopped up into 3 parts. I guess it's all right. But if they were gonna do that knowingly, I would have preferred have it maybe be 1 more episode long, just a half hour longer, just to kind of get into the backstory of what's going on a little bit more with, I don't want to give it away too much, but just a tiny bit more backstory would have been nice. I think it would have just added a little bit more emotional thing to it, a little more emotional punch. I thought it was awesome. The animation is cool, a lot of action. It is more violent than I was expecting, but 1 more episode covering some holes here and there would have been really cool, especially going into the relationships between certain characters. I think would have been tying all that up would have been really nice. But again, if they're leaving it open for another movie or another 3-part series, maybe a 4-part series, I'm all for it. I'll watch it, no matter if they make up some story. At the end of this story, I wouldn't say that it's got full closure to it, because it's one of those stories that you can always add on an adventure to it. You can always go from town to town, place to place. Relationships can grow, people get older, something like that. I think that that's possible. Normally, I really wouldn't care. Like, oh, well, if they make one, I'll watch it. But if in this one, I would really want them to do it. It's really cool. What I really appreciated, though, about the Netflix version is the multiple languages that you have an option to listen to the movie in. I really liked the Spanish version, and man, it really brought back a lot of memories from when I was a little kid. We took a trip to Mexico, and right now I'm having a lot of memories about Mexico and about the old days when I was 10, 11 years old back in the back in the mid 80s. And this was 1986. I was watching in English. I started watching the show called Transor Z, and it's an old school show, and I liked it. Now, by the time I went to Mexico, they were also showing it there, but it's called Messenger Z, Messenger Z. And of course, it is dubbed in Spanish. It's not in English or Japanese with subtitles. They went ahead and dubbed the whole thing into Spanish. So it was very surreal for me to watch something like that in Spanish. By that time, I'd watched Robotech, and I was really into that. And of course, in America, it's called Robotech. Everywhere else in the world, it's a 3-part series that have nothing to do with each other. So, of course, it's the Macross Saga, Sword Cross, and damn it, I always forget the third part. That early on, I understood that at the very least, these things were Japanese cartoons. Anime, of course, it wasn't the term that I was using as a kid. I was just calling them Japanese cartoons. So it made sense to me that it would be, if they were, as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, it made more sense to me that they would only dub it in English and then they would just subtitle it in Spanish. I don't know, crazy kid. But I just remember my cousin was really, really into this Transor Z, Messenger Z, and we would sit there and we would watch it. And I'm like, oh my God. And I think they might have been 1 or 2 episodes behind by the time I got there. And we just started watching, and it really was awesome. I mean, it really felt nice to have a connection to these Japanese cartoons with someone other than my brother, and other than, well, actually, in my neighborhood growing up, there really wasn't too many people that were into anime. There weren't really too many other people that I can sit there and talk to about these quote-unquote cartoons. And I had met, when I went down to Mexico as a kid, I'd never really met my cousin before, and we met and we really bonded over anime. Specifically, of course, Messenger Z. I am not sure if that had something to do with how my relationship with that specific cousin was stronger than most others in that time. I had a bunch of cousins living in that town at the time. But at the very least, watching this Kabaneri in Spanish brings back this flood of cool, emotional, nice childhood memories that probably otherwise I wouldn't have thought of, at least at this particular moment, watching anime in Spanish and dubbed in Spanish, and well done too, actually. So I really appreciated that. In that sense, isn't that what anime is supposed to do for a little while, is to let us believe in better times, let us believe that there are actually good things happening out there. I mean, I don't know in what particular spot of the world this may be reaching, or whoever's listening to this, but sometimes out here there's a lot of bullshit. And personally speaking, without getting too crazy or wasting your time right now, I am going through a lot of personal issues at the moment that I am not used to. I am not in the, I'm just going through my own personal bullshit right now, that it's just overall at the bottom line, it's frustrating, and it brings on just anxiety and depression. I can't say depression, even though I feel down and melancholy at times. Depression is a word I'd like to say for some people who actually suffer from this mental illness, that really are depressed and that routinely need help. I'm not there in that situation to where I want to say, well, I'm depressed, because I think that would take away from someone who really suffers from depression. But I am, let's just say I'm not running an emotional high. And watching this cartoon, this Japanese cartoon, this anime in Spanish, really alleviated a lot of this emotional stress that I'm going through right now. And it was just really cute to see when there's levity in the show. It's really cute to see them light up in Spanish and use that language that I haven't heard in an anime in a long time. And I appreciate that. And again, this is why anime exists. It's supposed to make us feel better. It's supposed to make us think. It's supposed to take us to an emotional place that other medium just can't handle right now, or can't do it right now. Aside from music, a lot of the visual media, movies and shows, they're trying, but they're just not really hitting their mark with enough fantasy and enough pushing of the story envelope to make some of us who are looking for a little more satisfied with what we're doing. And again, I really appreciate, that's one of the biggest reasons why I really appreciate anime, and especially people that put a lot lot of thought into the higher end anime with stories, character development, and animation all at once. All right, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate that. That's all I'm going to say on this one. It's available on Netflix. Chances are you probably already seen it, and if you're really into anime, it's either on your queue to see it or you already have, and I'm just more or less preaching to the choir here. Thank you again for listening. Have a good day, and I will talk to you soon.